Hi, good evening. My name is Jay Rothman, and welcome to Real Men, Real Talk Live. Hi, good evening again. My name is Jay Rothman. I am the host of the show. I'd like to welcome to the show Mr. Josh Richer, coming in from somewhere in the Americas. We have Jeff Fasano coming in from Nashville, Tennessee. And of course, Everslove Heath, the man and the land from down under. He calls Australia home. Welcome to the show, guys. And Happy New Year, or New Here, as Ev loves to say.
There you go, brother. You've got it, man. Hey, Happy New Year to all my brothers and sisters on the other side of the pond. As you know, we're in the future here, and it was a lit Happy New Year. Hope everyone's had a beautiful time over there and is having a beautiful time. And how's it been for you, my brothers?
Been good. Ready for new, but I know things aren't going to change super quickly. So just still dropping into gratitude. Just grateful for a lot this year.
Love that. Love that.
Yeah, I hear you. What's new inside of all of us? What are we taking new with us? Have we released enough of the old to create a whole new relationship with ourselves, starting right now? That's the new, guys.
There it is.
It's not about out there. It's about what's in here.
Yeah, 100%, man. How you feeling, Mr. J. Roth, the man?
Well, that's the $1 million question. It's been we've had quite the experience rolling out or pulling in the old year of 2020 and rolling out the red carpet for 2021. It was just a week ago today, Christmas Day, that Mary and I woke up with symptoms from COVID. We couldn't get in for testing till Saturday. She tested positive. I tested negative, although I had symptoms, not as significant as hers. But, she's been amazing. She has, each day she had a couple of days that were quite difficult, challenging, rough. Fevers, chose not to do treatment for the fevers, let the fever do what it's supposed to do, which is do its job, not suppress the fever, but let it happen. And each day since I think Tuesday or Wednesday, she's seen a healthy progression. I've been tested twice, and both times I tested negative, but I still have the symptoms. My symptoms that fall similar for COVID. So at this point, in this moment, I made a decision today to jump into a water juicing fast, guys, because for me, my number one concern was my blood pressure has spiked to very high levels that I'm not comfortable with. And so last time I did a juice water fast, I did it for almost 3 weeks, finished the 19th day. This time I'm only going to jump in for 3 days at most, probably. But in the last hour, I checked my blood pressure and it is coming down into normal, healthy range. So I've done it before. I'm doing it very differently this time. I'm excited to see the outcomes over this next couple of days. But I'm leaning into faith over fear.
There you go.
I'm trusting the intuition that came through, the wisdom that came through from within, and jumped into this water juicing fast today. So if I'm a little low in energy, it's because I'm not quite myself. But I know I've got 3 amazing co-hosts that will pick it up for me. And tonight's topic is all about igniting our inner light to find our superpowers within in 2021. And it's such a beautiful topic to start out the new year on New Year's Day because, so many of us were repressed or depressed in 2020 due to the circumstances of communities shutting down, family members getting COVID, not knowing, family members losing friends and family. Of course, the financial aspect of it. So there was so much that happened in 2020. Those were the negatives, but the positives were so many people that we know in our community and our viewership have used this year to expand, to grow, to listen to the answers, and to shed and shred people, places, and things that are no longer serving them. And so that to me is the first step of igniting the light within. But here we are now in a new year, 2021, with such great opportunities. So tonight's show is all going to be about tips, tricks, and tools to spark your inner light, to experience what power can feel like. Now, today, Evis, you did a quick a promo leading up to tonight's show, and you talked about the power grab. How are we going to grab our power? And it really comes down to are we talking about the external power for the power grab, or are we really talking about the inner power to grab? What do you think, Ev?
Beautiful, my brother. And yeah, as always, thanks, brothers and sisters, for having me here on the other side of the pond. And you bring up a really important point straight away. And what I really want to dive into as I try and help people on their health, fitness, wellness journeys through the year 2021 and navigate into this personal power that we want to really open up to and ignite here for our brothers and sisters on at Real Men Real Talk Live is really understanding what the whole idea of this personal power within is all about. And look, we probably look at it from many different angles. And, in a lot of our shows, we try and talk about definitions of what it may mean to us, and it can be very relevant. But as you just opened up there, bro, in regards to 2020, we had to do a lot of shedding and shredding. This personal power, this ignition of this inner light that you're talking about, we need to say to ourselves in 2020, where was some of that personal power maybe being let out to? What was I given my personal power, my inner light, right up until this point, 2021, into the 21st century? Where was I giving that away? Where was I actually cultivating and nurturing it, and where was I getting it from? Is that personal power to me something that is part of my assertion into the world? Is that power to me something that is coming from a place of love unconditionally that I can share within the community from an own individual perspective and also make that ripple effect into the collective? Or is power to me something that I need from the outside world to validate myself? You see, what I wanted to touch on this morning in that video, and I know we're going to dive into it deep tonight, is that, these external powers that we've been really searching for, this idea of validation, self-worth, self-value, to be heard, seen, and present. They're old programs again, brothers. They're old belief systems. As we come into this year 2021, and I keep saying, are we going to be the one? I'm really inviting my brothers and sisters to welcome back home those fragmented pieces that we may have externalized our power to in the world. On those people, places, and things that we may have been looking for validation for our own happiness, for our own satisfaction, to really come back to self and see that this has always been an inside job. You see, the ego mind, it needs validation from the world, and it will create the power from the external world. But if you're coming from within, then you know that you're the creator of your reality. Anything, everything, and all the distractions that are being really stirred up on us right at the moment, at this point in time, they will not make an effect on you. Because you now are taking responsibility for your life, for your dreams, for your intentions. And as we go into 2021, when we start bringing all of that externalized power back to self, become a little bit more emotionally intelligent, have we really cultivated and grown from 2020, put on that 2020 vision, like I said, glasses, and now be able to come aware of some of these emotions and feelings of our internal power to be able to really share with the world and truly free ourselves of the lockdowns, of the limitations that have been restricting on us from day one. We've only just started to become aware of all this, my brothers and sisters. So yeah, man, this shit gets really deep on so many layers. And I know tonight, my brothers, we're going to bring it home.
I think you just did bring it up.
Exactly. This is beautiful. But you made me think of it's like, you know, as we're trying to fill our own cup, right? We do need to be aware of where those leaks are, where we're leaking our power, because you can just keep filling a cup with holes and you're never going to fill it up. So I love that. That was a beautiful visual you painted for me.
Yeah. You know, we've all spoken about this, and even in our production meeting, we spoke about we've come to the end of a year of a global pause, or a pause within, and how much have you really realized about yourself? If you've done the inner work, if you've gone within and really shine, you know, took that mirror and turned it around and looked into that mirror this year and really internalized everything, as opposed to, as we spoke in the last show, about constantly looking outside of yourself. I think what Evis means about power is continually looking outside of yourself for others' approval, or trying to prove to everyone who you are. My question is, for everyone is how much have you grown this year? How much have you moved within to really know yourself on a deeper level, on a much deeper level, to know yourself? And where have you honored and valued and loved yourself so much more? Where have you released your attachments to the world outside? Mm-hmm. It's a wonderful way to begin to do some inventory, even right now. Where have I grown? What have I learned about myself? Who am I now, as opposed to who I was on January 1st, 2020? Mm-hmm. Have I grown? Have I shifted? Have I moved to a greater understanding of myself within? That's the power. That's the personal power. The personal power is moving within, knowing that you stand in a powerful aspect of yourself, in the greatness of yourself. You don't have to look out there anymore, no matter what is going on in the world today. Mm-hmm. To really look at yourself and say, where am I standing in a stronger knowingness of who I am right now, as opposed to 5 months ago, 6 months ago, a year ago?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jeff. And, you know, I know this isn't our first rodeo. Every single one of us that take a breath in a new year are gifted with an opportunity to kind of reset, reboot, refresh, renew. But by the second week of the year, the majority of New Year's resolutions and goals, the high percentage, over 80%, are already set to the side. People throw in a towel and they give up. What I'd like to do is really kind of open it up to you guys and say, why is that? What is it that blocks us, even when we have the drive? Because we've got, it's like an artist that says, you know what? It's December 31st. I don't want to start the new year painting on the old canvas. Exactly. I want a fresh start. So how many artists run out to the local art supply shop, buy a brand new canvas to start the year fresh? What is it that even blocks an artist. The artist I'm talking about is the artist of the soul.
Mm-hmm.
What stops any of us from being able to turn on that light and keep it lit all year, no matter what we may face, emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, and financially? What do you think, Josh? What's the block?
The enemy is comfort.
Yeah, there you go.
The brain loves knowns.
Yes.
It loves to be able to predict life and keep us safe. And that becomes a problem when we're trying to make changes and make alterations in our life, to edit our life in a better way, in a more positive way, filling our cup more full and generating that power from within. The enemy is our brain that wants to find that the old knowns that it's comfortable with. And so how we can beat that is through intention. And in fact, there's a great analogy. I've used it in the past. It's like driving to work. You've rehearsed that drive to work so many times that you don't even have to think about it. You can be on the phone talking to somebody else and not even think of the drive. You're not thinking of right turns, left turns, and how you get to work. You just all of a sudden end up there because your brain has rehearsed it so many times. Well, the same thing happens with our life. And that's how we get stuck in this autopilot and in these ruts that we can't get out of because the brain is just in it. Now, let's say we wanted to drive somewhere that was near our work, but it's slightly different. Well, you have to watch as you drive. You have to now consciously think of, oh, I'm going to take a left here instead of the right going to work. Because if you were just to tune out and it was close to your work, you would automatically drive to work because that's the habit. And that's what the brain knows. So we have to be conscious. And that's where we take back our power from this machine that likes to stay in knowns. We can stay conscious and catch in the moment and say, nope, I know that's the usual pattern, but I'm going to choose this instead. And we do that with kindness, with love. We're not judging the brain or the ego. We're not labeling anything as bad or wrong or old or new. We're simply saying, this was the previous way, and today I choose a new. And I do that with love, and I do that with conscious intention. And we have to stay diligent. It's like the brain is like a child. It wants to run wild and do its own thing. And we have to catch it and pull back and say, nope, we're going to do this. And the trick is to just consistently do that over and over and over. And all of a sudden that new way will become the pattern. And that's how we can beat these old ruts that we're stuck in. And that's why those ruts are happening. The brain loves these comfortable knowns, and we can teach it. It's just, it takes repetition and staying on it. So it's not hard, but it just takes some diligence.
Beautiful. I love that, Josh. I'm gonna hold back from sharing my perspective. I'll break it down when it's the right moment. But what I'd like to do, Ev, what are you making of the question I posed? Like, what's the block?
I think the brother just hit it right on the head. If you're coming from the brain still, my brothers and sisters, where aren't you coming from? You're not coming from here, your heart. We've all been really invited to come from this more soul space into navigating into the world or reality that we want to see. You know, it's so new for so many of us because the brain, like Josh is saying, it does not want to seek change, or it doesn't want to see the discomfort, and it's the fear of failure. You know, when we start actually embracing some of this more ancient, I would say, but newer technology, which has always been within us, and we start actually showing by our actions and through our practices daily, the self-care, the boundaries that we always talk about, and we come from that place of the heart. Now we start talking a little bit more about our deeper purpose, like our soul purpose. We talk about our destiny. We talk about our life purpose. You see, all of these other programs, and we touched on it last week a little bit, they're old belief systems. It's an old way of looking at a calendar. It's an old time. The whole time needs to all change. We don't even know what time is anymore. Everyone's saying how quick this year went. But look at everything that happened in this year. This new age that we've been ushered into, my brothers and sisters, is an age to trust. It's to accept that even though it is the unknown, that the brain wants known, that it's going to be okay. And as long as we trust in that internal light that we're talking about, that ignition of that personal power from within, from a heart space, then we can start really allowing the other processes that come along with it to start coming in. It's not forcing things to happen. That, you know, do we have to really set a goal at this time of the year because the program says so? Do we have to set a resolution because a program says so? I mean, this is one of those things that keeps us going around in these vicious cycles. And like I mentioned, as we enter into this new age, into this 21st century, we're in 2021 now, my brothers and sisters. That's a numerology of 5. That means true freedom. It means true liberation. But if you see the 5 the way that it actually is written, it sees the left and it's the right. It says that you're open for expansion. It says that you're open for growth. It says that you're open for possibilities. You see, till this point, we've been very, very limited, my brothers and sisters. And like I said, as we go into this new age, we're going to see just how deep, multidimensional intentions are going to be, as opposed to some of these things, like you said, Jay, resolutions and goals.
I love that, Ev. Before, Jeff, you get a moment to jump in, I'd like to just acknowledge our viewers and listeners and welcome you and thank you for joining us in the United States, New Year's Day evening. Happy New Year to you. We'd love to know what city, state, or country you call home. I know we've got a number of people coming in from overseas. We love to see you here on Real Men, Real Talk Live. Welcome to the show. If you have any questions or comments, drop them down into the comment section. If you hear something that you love or like, would love, tap your love button on your monitor and let us know, because when you let us know with love, it lights us up and it really helps us find our own superpowers within, right here, right now in the show. So again, thank you for joining us this evening. Getting back to the question I proposed, and both Josh and Ev have done a great job kind of breaking it down and framing it up for us. Jeff, from your perspective, what is the number one roadblock that prevents us from turning on our light and keeping it lit all year long?
For me, I think what's really important is that everybody looks at a new year, looks at a clean slate, and thinks about what they should be doing. Like I've just said, setting goals, setting goals. I need to attain this. I need to do this. I need to do that. This year, I'm going to do this. For me, it's about who are you going to be this year? Who are you being now? And who are you going to be in this new year? It's great to set intentions. My main intention this year is to do my first photo book. But that is going to be a reflection of whom I am being this year. For me, what's more important is about who am I going to be this year? Where have I shifted and changed and grown to move my beingness to move within and allow my energy to move out into the world, being who I am, which will affect my doing and our doing when we go out and we move out into the world. But I'm going to bring it back to what Josh said about comfort, knowing that when we're in a comfort zone, a routine, that we're safe. We're safe and secure. And I'm going to bring it back once again to the inner child. The inner child, the wounded inner child, is continually seeking to be safe and secure. I need to be safe and secure. My 5-year-old, my 7-year-old is looking at mom and dad outside of themselves to be safe and secure. And I think what happens is then when we close doors to the old, if in fact we've done that, and hopefully we've all closed some doors to the old in 2020 to move to a greater powerfulness and greatness within ourselves, that we can differentiate between that little child that is seeking to be safe and secure. So then when the new doors open and there is a vast emptiness or nothingness in the unknown on the other side of those doors, that we've moved into a knowingness of who we are, that the safety and security is us. It's who we are. We don't have to seek that outside of ourselves. And I think that's a big block for many people when they're saying to themselves, I want to create new. Well, if you're going to create new, that new, as Jay said earlier, is on a completely empty palette. That's the unknown. But then the safety and security part kicks in. So it's so important to distinguish between the child that's looking to be safe and secure all the time, seeking mommy and daddy to be safe, so you can see that and feel it. And then you can nurture that child and still walk through that doorway to the unknown and begin creating on that empty canvas.
Love it. Absolutely love it. You nailed it, Jeff, Josh, and Ev. Elizabeth Richter joining us from the Netherlands. Thank you for coming in tonight. It's so nice to see you. She says, my greatest change is to let my heart, intuition, to become dominant instead of the mind. The mind is where our ego resides. That's home for the ego. And you see what happens is that the comfort that you mentioned, Josh, is really about the comfort of maintaining what was or what is, because there's comfort, there's safety, there's perceived safety in that. And so I'm going to break it down from my perspective this evening, is that you've all kind of honed in on it. And what it comes down to is that to a large extent, we may have a desire, an intention, a wish for something major to shift in our life. And we really want it. And we know what it is most of the time. But what we lack is confidence. Because it's the younger self that is fearful of, well, what if? The what ifs. What if it doesn't work? What if I'm not successful with it? What if I feel like a failure? I could come up with 5 more. But ultimately, ego's job is to protect your younger self. So now the ego says, screw it, put it to the side, we'll get through the year. And then you beat yourself up. Your self-esteem comes down one more notch. How you feel about yourself, how you see yourself, is one more year of disappointments for yourself. And so I challenge each and every single one of our listeners that there are some amazing tools and tips and tricks that we have shared throughout the year, and how we could break the chain to our past stories. Because everything that we think we can't do is coming from our thoughts. I said, think we can't do. That's our thought. And every time you go to those thoughts of lack, thoughts of no way, thoughts of not me, thoughts of maybe next year, not this year, and it's not even the end of February yet. We could challenge that and say, is it true? Is it true? And the answer is always, no, it's not true. It's just a story in this moment I've grabbed onto. And it is another powerful tool that you could start to practice. I use mantras in my healing journey every single day, especially when I'm out on the trails. And one of the mantras is, it's possible. And I say, yes, 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 it's possible. Yes. And I may say it 10 times until I feel it in my heart, in my throat chakra, radiating, vibrating throughout my body. and I've got my music on, and sometimes I may raise my arms, and I just allow myself to go there and be inspired by just a few words. Yes, 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 it's possible. Because the alternative is, you see, we're going to show up. We're either going to show up and say, it's not possible, or we're going to say it is possible. And most of the time, we're not saying it's possible because we're not speaking those words. We're letting our thoughts control our outcomes. What I have learned over the last 5 years is that we deserve love. We deserve to be loved. We deserve to experience what it is in our life that's meaningful to us and for us. And one thing I want to add, Jeff, you said something about we're so busy doing, which is very different than just being, just to be. Abigail Engel says, fear described all of it, Jay. And there you go. It's our younger self that is fearful that one more time, we're going to let ourselves down. Forget about someone else. We're going to let ourselves down. So again, the mantra, create a mantra for yourself that's powerful, that you can biohack your brain, biohack your thoughts through a mantra or a few of them, and you'll start to see a shift. Some people refer to them as affirmations. That's okay too. I say affirmations too, but a mantra is you just keep saying it until in that moment you know it's possible. It's possible, yes. What do you make of that, Josh?
You know, it goes back to that. Your mantras are your consciousness, your heart speaking, not your mind. And it's you grabbing that wheel and saying, no, I'm going this way. And I love that. I love that, Jay. And I think, another tool that we've talked about on past episodes is reframing what we perceive as failure. Because, Ev, Jay, you guys both brought up a huge point where people have resistance of breaking through to a new, because the fear of failing at that and beating ourselves up for it is awful. I lived a lot of my life in that loop where I would want massive change, but fear it being something else I could beat myself up over after I failed it, because I had proof in the past that I had done that. And, so I knew I could do that. I knew I could get myself all hyped up, get halfway into something and then back out or fail. And then I just use that for months or maybe even years to beat myself up. And that really sucks. And I feel all of you that feel that loop. So reframing failure, what would that look like? That would look like, we talked about trying something as an experiment. There's no pass fail. You're just going to try and go for a run 10 minutes every morning. Just
there
try
you
it.
go. Michael Peters says, the Buddha said the only failure is the failure to try. That was synchronicity right there in Sedona. Michael is actually my neighbor. Welcome to Real Men Real Talk Live. I believe this is your first time joining us on the live. Michael has actually been such an amazing blessing and gift. He showed up right on time for both Mary and I as we've navigated through COVID this week. He's been the one running to the stores and getting us some things when we've needed it. And last night, he actually left a bottle of champagne by our door. Not that we didn't open it, because right now we're not drinking any alcohol. However, that day will come where we will pop that bottle open. We will celebrate it with Michael and his beautiful wife, Saba. So thank you for showing up right on time, Michael.
Beautiful.
Elizabeth says the biggest lessons come from failures. Actually, there is no failure. Well, and she's right. In American society, at least in modern society, perhaps even, we get caught up in words. We get caught up in how we describe our experiences, and failure has a very, very heavy weight to it. And Ev, what do you make of failure? What is failure?
Well, and Josh, you hit it in the head, like if we're looking to reframe failure and look at it more so as everything as an experience, I mean, this is the difference between someone that is proactive and reactive, isn't it? So many of us, when we feel that some of these failures may come up into the life, we're not present. We're not in this here like I'm talking about. We're not in this now. So, Jay, when you talk about that confidence, this is a tool it's going to have to be built over time. It may not have even been built up until this point in our lives as an adult. So, I touched on those 4 components in really igniting that personal power to maybe be able to have that confidence in reframing some of these words like failures or obstacles or challenges, everything that we've seen past in 2020. And that other thing for me that I touched on was all about the self-esteem. So much of it within this confidence side of things, it can really bring down the self-esteem within ourselves. And that stops us from really wanting to go forward and take action into what we want to become in the new year. So for me, like you said, brother, definitely reframing, like you said there, Josh, and really learning that confidence, this self-esteem that we're talking about. And the other one for me, through that resilience that we even built through 2020, through these limitations. Have you been able to build a few of these things back in 2020? So you will start to see that really nothing is a failure. It's just an experience or a lesson.
Beautiful. I love that. Before you jump in, Jeff, I want to acknowledge Katrina May. She says, this is my first time here. Don't even know how I found it. Well, that's a beautiful thing. We don't have to know. It's like people asking Mary, who did you catch COVID from? And, she came up with a whimsical answer. And that's someone who has it. Katrina goes on to say, but anything titled Real Men, Real Talk, that's got my attention. My belief is always to fail fully, freely, and completely. Once you've mastered the fail, you're ready to fly.
There you go. Love it.
We touched on the power of our words. But what about the power of movement in lighting up, finding our superpower within?
There you go.
Whether we are walking, hiking, rebounding on a little mini trampoline, hot yoga, which I picked up just a couple of 24 hours ago. Whatever it is you're doing in movement, even if you just raise your arms and just do body stretches while you say those powerful either affirmations or mantras, that will begin to shift something within you. It's powerful, believe me. People, I'm sure, look at me on a trail sometimes and, whatever they think, and I don't really care because what I know is that when I leave many days, I'm lit. I'm on fire. I come home renewed, refreshed, rebooted. What I'd like to do, guys, is kind of shift us real quick here and talk about an area that we really haven't touched on that much back in 2020. How can we find our inner power, our superpower, when we are struggling with some type of health condition, whether it be emotional, mental, or physical, like a new diagnosis or a diagnosis that's had us living in pain for some time now? How can we find that sweet spot within where we can ignite a new light to dissolve whatever that pain is that we've been suffering or challenged or struggling with or battling? See, there's another 2 words, fighting or battling. We use those 2 words in the English language like I'm sorry. And that's another topic for another night. But I'm not a big fan of I'm battling cancer or I'm battling autoimmune or I'm fighting it. Because for me, there's heaviness there. I'm not here to battle. I put down my boxing gloves. I'm here to live a life of surrender today. And it's a different perspective. It's a different spin. The end result is we want the same result. We want to live. We want to be free of disease.
Mm-hmm.
But it's being aware of the words we speak that are going to impact our relationship with the disease. So, guys, what do you think? How do we, this is a tough one, because unless you have gone through some type of physical ailment, I know, Jeff, you went through one in 2020 that was devastating for you. Most people don't know about it. It's HIPAA laws say, I'm not going to disclose it. It's up to you to disclose it. It doesn't matter. But what's your spin on how do we ignite our light, our superpowers within, when we right now are challenged with some type of medical condition?
Jay, you just touched on something that is really important. I'm going to battle this. I'm going to fight this. Well, then really, if it's happening in your body, then if you're going to battle it and fight it, aren't you battling and fighting yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Right, because the disease is within you.
There you go.
And most diseases, well, this is another controversial statement I'm going to throw out there because I'm going to be real. And I'm a man, so I can be real man, real talk. Right. And that is that most disease, unless we're born with a genetic disease that we're born with, most disease is created from our own circumstances, our lifestyle, our stresses. It starts in the mind. It starts with dis-ease, as we've talked about before. But again, how do we change our relationship with it in 2021 so that we can be free? We can begin the process of being free.
Just to let everybody know, it was a year ago and a couple of weeks that I got blasted with tinnitus. And it was pretty devastating when one night when I was going to bed, I heard this whooshing sound in my right ear that was deafening. And it sent me in quite a loop, believe me. I called Jay. Jay said, well, this is probably bigger than really what it really is. And it took me a little while. And one of the things a friend said to me, who 40 years ago was diagnosed with HIV. And he was freaked out 40 years ago. He's alive and well and doing wonderful right now in his mid-70s. And this was pretty devastating with me. I've had a lot of athletic injuries, pinched nerves, broken fingers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I've always been able to weather that because I knew they would heal, and I knew that I would be able to be with that. But when this tinnitus hit me, it was devastating because if I was to scour the internet, it says that tinnitus cannot be healed. It's not something that you can heal. And maybe that's true. I'm not sure, but I went and read a lot about it. And but my friend said to me, when I was diagnosed with HIV 40 years ago, my medical doctor said, go home and write a love letter to it. Go home and write a love letter to this dis-ease. My friend looked at him and said, you're out of your mind. And because it was new and because it was fairly devastating to hear that, it took him a while. He resisted, but when he did that, when he sat down and wrote a love letter to the dis-ease and asked it, what are you here to tell me? What are you here to make me learn or love or grow? And really, so what you're doing when you do that is you're writing a love letter to yourself. And when he said to me, when I was, going through the throes of it a year ago, I sat down and started asking the questions, why are you here? What are you trying to tell me? What is it that you're trying to get my attention to when this tinnitus hit me? And when I did that and wrote it down, some answers didn't come, but if I did that every single day, asking those questions, man, so many amazing answers came. And I realized that, yeah, part of this was physical. A part of it was how I was living my life in major stress all the time. So I started getting these answers, and instead of battling it, because and Josh has said this many times, when something happens within us that our nervous system is not used to, we go right into fight or flight mode. So the reaction to something physical, a dis-ease, I don't like to use the word disease, it's dis-ease with a hyphen in there. It's trying to tell us something. It's really trying to get our attention, that where the physical body is saying, well, we're now going to get your attention here for some reason. And when I started to trying not to fix it or get rid of it and be with it and go with it, so many doors opened up. I learned so much more about it. And then I began to habituate to it. It's there. You know, it's there. It comes, it goes. But it really told me a lot about how the hell I was living my life a year ago.
Beautiful.
Magic.
Love that. Ev, what do you make of what Jeff is saying?
Beautiful. Beautiful, my brother. And thanks for sharing that, Jeff. And the thing is, you know, like it's touching on that whole idea of what we've talked about earlier in regards to the externalizing and the internalizing of, you know, our power. You know, many of us, we'd probably just run straight to a doctor, wouldn't we? But, you know, what you've done there, Jeff, you've paused, like in 2020, many of us had to, and many people have pulled up sick, hurt, some sort of injury or whatever. And it is a pause. It is a reset. This is connecting back with your body, man. This is your body. It is signaling you. It is messaging you that something is not right. But are we listening? So that number one thing for me, we've got to take responsibility of this. You know, one hard lesson that my mum had to learn, and, you know, both of her kidneys failed. So when she took responsibility and we started to put in some action steps to start bringing her back to best ability to be able to lose weight and actually get another kidney to bring back all of that time, then she was able to take that power back into herself. So the thing is, it's taken responsibility of how I got myself to this place in the first place. From that point, it really does depend on the individual. But if we're coming from within and we start to learn that this is the body sending that message, sending that very signal that something is not right here, then we can start acquiring certain tools, certain therapies. You know, if we need to go to the doctor, seeking professional help or get the support we need to actually, you know, help us with our healing.
Yeah, that's amazing, Ev. You hit on responsibility. Whose responsibility is it? And unfortunately, many of us, and I was one of those patients, I didn't know how to take responsibility for my own health and well-being. As I heard someone say, in the health and wellness business, the majority of people are just darn lazy. They don't want to do the work, and they don't think they have to, because they got the download through media, through commercials, through everywhere you turn. All you got to do is, you know, go see your doctor and you'll feel better. But the doctor doesn't have your superpower. You have your superpowers. I love what Katrina said. She says, I had that conversation once with the universe. I looked up and said, what is it you need me to teach? The universe answered, what is it you need to learn? Bugger.
There you go. There you go.
The universe is a patient teacher, isn't she?
Carrie Crary says she's a neighbor south of Sedona, neighbor of ours. She says, when I got sick, I stopped trusting my body. I was a runner, very athletic. I didn't understand. And that's probably an entree into another show. When we think we're healthy, why do we get taken? Why do we get taken out? Why do we get a massive diagnosis? Because we're a runner, because we're athletic. That's just one part of it. There's 4 pillars of balance in our life. I've mentioned this before in earlier episodes: the emotional, the mental, the physical, and the spiritual. And if any one of those 4 are not aligned in balance, there's a really good chance that over time it's going to catch up and we're going to end up in disease. And I met a few people that actually, Matthew Embry, I interviewed him a couple of weeks ago on Real People, Real Health. He was total athlete, 19 years old, tagged with MS. Now, he appeared to be healthy, but what he acknowledged in the interview was that for him, his relationship with food was toxic. He was a typical 19-year-old. He didn't eat healthy. For him, he believed that was a big catalyst, as well as he had some stresses going on. But what 19-year-old doesn't have stresses in their life? So it's simple, not easy. It's not one thing. It's everything. And it's for us to peel it away, peel it apart, examine what role did we play in us losing our superpower in that moment to disease. But is it possible that we could take it back? And I say, oh, it's possible. Yes, 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 it is possible. I know it is, because I and many others have reversed, dissolved, or put into remission many different diseases.
It's so important, guys. It's so important to the most important thing in the way I look at things. The most important thing we need to do is pay attention to our emotional body, to our feelings, feeling our feelings. I don't care how incredibly healthy. I don't care if you're a marathon runner and you've got a heart rate of 12. If you're stuffing your feelings, if you're repressing and suppressing your feelings, if you're not allowing your emotions out and move that energy, I've said it before on a whole bunch of these shows, your feelings have energy attached to them. If you are suppressing and repressing your feelings, you're simply suppressing and repressing that energy, which is going to be stuffed and lodged in our physical bodies. It's going to stick there and stick there and stay there. And that is what's going to cause your physical dis-ease. So you could be a world-class athlete, and then all of a sudden something happens. The question to ask yourself is, what am I feeling? Where have I suppressed and repressed all of those feelings because mom said you can't feel? Stop that. Stop crying. You're angry? Stop being angry. You're not supposed to be angry. And then the little boy, the little girl says, if mom is saying that I need to stop crying and stop being sad and stop being angry, then I must be sad and angry person. And then you start taking all of that on. And then as we get older and we start to grow, that wounding, that conditioning, that programming is still there. And once we start to feel feelings that mom or dad said we weren't supposed to feel because it triggered their feelings, it triggered what they've been stuffing for their entire lives, and they didn't want you to feel that because they didn't want to look into the mirror. And then all of a sudden, that triggers up the first thing we do through that conditioning and programming is repress and suppress those feelings, that energy, push it down, push it down. I'm not going to be loved if I'm feeling angry. I'm not going to be loved if I'm feeling sad. I'm not going to be loved by crying. I'm a guy. I'm a man. I'm not supposed to cry. I'm not supposed to have those feelings because dad says you're weak. So all of this comes into it. And the most important part is to really allow yourself to feel.
Mm-hmm.
Amen. And that's why we launched this podcast back in 2020. 1 year ago tomorrow was the first time all four of us got together on my old show, Real Men, Real Talk Raw. And we came in as a panel and had an amazing experience together. And just a couple of months later, we relaunched, rebranded Real Men, Real Talk Live. And that's what this platform is for us men to come in and share our own experiences, share our vulnerability, share how we can feel safe, to have the balance between what some refer to as a feminine and a masculine divine within, and to be at peace with who we truly are inside. Know who that is. Allow that part of ourselves to come out, feminine and or masculine divine. It doesn't mean that it makes us gay or straight. It's just that we all have that within us. And it's learning how to get in touch with both masculine and feminine within you, and learning how to accept and love yourself just as you are, and understand more about how that has impacted your life and how you can have it impact your life today to work for you, not against you. And so we are coming up on the hour, guys. It's been an amazing 2021. Ignite your light within for your superpowers to show up. And what I'd like to do is, this is the time of the show where we call it musical chairs. And in musical chairs, we have 2 minutes each to share either closing thoughts, a trick, a tip, or a tool to help those that are not quite sure how to ignite their flame within, to take back their superpowers that they were born with. Yes, it's our birthright. It is our birthright to have our superpowers. Somebody or some people did everything they could do to strip us of it. Why? Because they were stripped of it. And then we inherited that from them. And I say today, if you want to turn your light on bright in 2021 and find your superpower, start today. With that, and we're going to have you open us up to close tonight. It's been a long time since you've gone first in musical chairs. I thought it was a new way to start the year out.
Thanks, brother. Yeah, thanks for sharing that too, man. That was beautiful, Joe. Yeah, man, look, we've been talking a little bit about igniting those superpowers for my brothers and sisters here for 2021. And, you know, to me, we had the year 2020 to really reflect inwardly and really find this spark that we're talking about, this superpower or this personal power as more of a long time, you know, concept within our lives that we can usher in to this new here, as I keep saying. So the thing is, and what I'm getting off the show tonight, listening to my brothers, if you're really lacking this superpower, this personal power that we're talking about, or you've been giving it away up until this point in your life, sit down and ask yourself, where have I been giving it away? Why have I been giving it away? Who have I been giving it away to? Or maybe it's, you know, one of those simple things that you just don't know what that superpower, what that future, what that vision may look like. Then you need to start, like I said, taking responsibility to where you may have been given off this personal power. Brothers and sisters, don't fall into the trap of playing victim in 2021. 2020, I've seen many people react to the external environment, to the distractions, to the events, people, places, and things happening out there in the reality that we've been living in. You need to listen to the inner voice, you know, the one that it speaks up when everything around you, all the shit, all the noise actually shuts down. You need to sit down and really reflect on that inner voice and ask yourself, what is it really guiding you on the path that you truly want to be? See how you start to become out of more of a reactive participant into more of a proactive participant? And that's what I talk about, as opposed to being a reactor to being a proactor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we give so much power to these fallen celebrities, these Hollywood stars. I know me, myself, growing up, you know, a lot of my power was given away to all of these sportsmen and to all of these superheroes that we see out here. I may have even given my power away to my lack of self-confidence as a young fella, to that inner self-talk that we didn't even really discuss on. So when we start to realize where we've been given this power away, then we can start talking about how we can emanate this personal power within. If you don't know what that looks like, man, have a look out there in the world. Is there a brother or sister close to you that emanates the personal power within that you would love to display in the world? Is it their confidence, like Jay the Rothman talked about, that would you love to emanate within the world? Is it something about how they show up in their life because they pull their shoulders back and they pull their chest proud when they walk down the streets? You know, it may take something like that just to give you that little bit of a nudge and ignite this spark as we go into the year 2021, when I keep asking you, brothers and sisters, are you going to be the one? You need to be saying that I am the one. So on that note, my brothers and sisters, much love into the new year. And we look forward to bringing topic after topic out at Real Men Real Talk Live. And from the bottom of my heart here in the land down under, just want to show my gratitude. So thank you, thank you, thank you for all your support and undivided attention.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Jay, you're muted.
It's always hard to follow up after each one of us gives our closing thoughts. But I want to take a moment here just to breathe and just to pause so we can take in what Ev just shared with us. This has been an absolutely beautiful show tonight. Hopefully you've heard something as a viewer that's going to inspire you. That it's possible. Jeff Pisano, I know how you always just love to follow right after Ev, so I'm putting you in a hot seat right now, brother.
Actually, I'm relishing this opportunity right now.
I know you always do.
I mean, I feel Ev's amazing multidimensional beingness, to be honest with you. There's three things that popped out from what we were talking about tonight. And I'm going to dovetail on what Ev just said. Ev, basically we're talking about who am I being this year? Who am I being? I said it earlier in the show. Who am I being in the powerfulness of me? I think that is the most important part in all of this. Once again, it's not about what am I going to do this year? The doing is always going to follow the powerfulness of who we are and who we are being, where we have grown to. And to be in that place of simply, I have now grown. I have now grown in awareness and in self and a self-consciousness and a consciousness of myself, that I am ready to step in the powerfulness of who I am. Who am I being? Who am I going to be in this year of 2021? Who was I 5 months ago and a year ago? Who am I now? And really, really go within and ask me, who am I now? What have I released? How have I grown? Can I now differentiate between me being the adult and the wounds of the child? And me starting to nurture that child. That's powerfulness. That's standing in the powerfulness. Another thing that comes to me, if we're standing in that place, if we're being this and radiating from our soul space, the powerfulness of who we are. I have a question for everybody out there. As you look out into the world right now, into 2020, in this global pause and this pandemic, the question I have is, are you still allowing what is happening in the world outside of you, in this 3D world outside of you, to dictate how you're going to live your life? Thus, if that's happening, it might guide you to live your life, but is it dictating how you live your life? If it is, you're giving your power away. You're giving the power away of who you are. Well, what's happening in the world outside of ourselves is simply an experience that we're having in this incarnation as humans. So if we can all, as Ev said earlier, look at life instead of saying, am I going to fail? Am I going to prosper? Am I going to do this? Am I going to do that? Ask yourself simply, something has popped up into my life. Can I look at it and have the experience of it? Life here is an experience. It's not about failure. It's not about winning or losing. It's about the experience that we're having and allowing ourselves to absorb that experience and be in the ebbs and flows of the experience of life. When you're in that place, your heart and soul is going to open up so much that you're giving yourself the experience of life and allowing yourself to stand in that powerfulness, and then ask yourself, is what is happening outside in my world, in that relationship, in what they're telling me, dictating the way I live my life? And it really shouldn't.
Beautiful.
Mhm.
Jeff Pisano, bringing it home. One more episode on Real Men, Real Talk Live. Thank you for that.
Mhm.
I want to acknowledge Jason Heath says, I gave my power away a very long time ago, but I am ready to take it back. Thanks, boys. Your chats are the best. Jason, what do you call home? Where's home for you? What state, country, part of the world do you live in?
He's actually my home, J. Roth the man. That's a
Beautiful.
relative.
Really?
That's a relative.
Beautiful. I love that. I wonder, Jason, if you feel comfortable dropping it down in the comments, you have one or two things that you're going to initiate so that you can take back your power this year. If you're open to sharing that, I'd love to see that. Thank you and welcome to the show, Jason Heath. And for those of you that are new to Real Men Real Talk Live, if this is in fact your first episode, welcome to our family of Real Men Real Talk. And those that join us every single week, we have so many people that have consistently showed up, which for me is really what we're talking about tonight. It is about consistently showing up. That may be, in fact, the first step to grabbing your own power. Josh, you're up, my friend.
You know, again, I say this every week. I wasn't sure what I was going to say. And Ev, you just barely touched on this, and it's such a massive thing. If we want to restart, refresh, redesign our new lives, we need to take responsibility for our inner dialogue. We refer to that as self-talk. If we don't like the way our life is going, I know that when I was at my lowest, when I almost took my own life due to shame and pain and feelings of being a failure, my self-talk was at an all-time low. I was my worst critic. I was hard on myself. I expected perfection and above. I would beat myself up and berate myself when I wasn't able to attain that high level. I never allowed myself forgiveness, and I never allowed myself to enjoy the moment. I was always striving for more and trying to build bigger, better. And that pressure of that self-talk was too much. And it became too much to live with. And that is literally the reason I almost jumped that day, was because I couldn't take the voice in my head anymore. And so if you are struggling with disease, or the pressure in your life is too much, I invite you to take a look. What is the dialogue in your head? We live our entire lives with one thing, our brain. And if it's not a nice place to be, it can be a pretty miserable existence. So, and just as we were talking with everything else on this episode, awareness is the key. We can observe our thoughts and we can choose new ones. And it is that simple. We just need to be diligent. And it takes about a month. I've done it. I've written about this in my book. You can rewire your brain and create new patterns. Your neural pathways will wire in these new thought patterns. You just have to stay on it. And one of the biggest pressure words for me was should. I should have done this. I should have seen that coming. I shouldn't have done that. I used it in the past. I used it in the future. I used it in the present to beat myself up. And for a month, I chose to reframe that word into the word could. So every time I caught myself in a sentence saying the word should, either in my own mind or out loud, I reframed that whole sentence and said could instead. And I told myself I had to do this for a month. And because that patterns for the brain take about 22 to 30 days to catch on. Your brain gets really tired of you creating energy trying to do something new. And so what it will do is automate it for you. It's a beautiful hack in the brain. I've studied a lot about it. So we can rewire, and the brain will take over that new pattern because it hates that you're using all that energy to reframe every time, but you just got to stay on it. And it doesn't take forever, and it's not hard. You just have to be diligent. So I invite all of us to watch our inner dialogues and to choose new. We won't say clean up. We won't judge what's happening. We won't, we're not going to label it as bad. We are just going to choose new words to discuss about ourselves, our life, how things are going, and not create stories. So yeah, that was beautiful. And we could do a whole episode on self-talk because it's so powerful. Like you said, Jay, our words are everything.
Well, Josh, you're me.
Jeff, I know we're so close.
That was so powerful right there, man.
Really, 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 really. Wow.
See, not only were you battling the voice in your head that was telling you to jump off the 5th floor parking garage at Sony Studios, but at that moment you were also battling addiction. And it was a battle because combined it was a toxic cocktail. And you just wanted quiet.
I just wanted peace. That's all I wanted was silence inside my head, and I was willing to jump to get it. So,
Josh, what I'd like to ask you to do, because you kind of left it a little open here, at least from my perspective, if someone in this moment right now is contemplating because of their current immediate circumstances on this day, what can you say to them?
My circumstances seemed unfixable, financial, and it's taken me 5 years to get out of it. And paid back close to $74,000 to friends and family that I actually just finished last week or 2 weeks ago. And I didn't think I could do it. And it took 5 years, but I did it. And it's behind me. So nothing as permanent as my problems seemed back then 4 years ago. As a good moment in our lives, you're hanging out with your friends, your family, you're experiencing life together, you're having a great time, and it ends. Everything ends, even pain, even hardship in life. It can't last forever. And even in my darkest hour, when I thought there was no way out, it heals and time heals. And even with destroyed credit because of my business failure, time heals that too. And so when it seems like it's so permanent that you can't stand it anymore, trust that just as the good moments don't last, the bad don't either. And reach out. Don't be quiet. I was quiet. And that is a terrible place to be.
Yeah.
And we're all here for you too. Please reach out to any of us.
Josh, I love what Katrina just shared. She says, remember, a permanent solution for a temporary problem is never the answer. And I know she's not saying this as a judgment. This is not a judgment statement at all. This is another topic for another night, mental health and suicide.
That's a big one.
And it's one we got to do this year, earlier, sooner than later. What I'd like to do is just, again, take a moment to thank our viewers, our listeners, those that have supported us through the year in 2020 when we launched, and continue to show up and participate and touch the lives of others. As a viewer, you may not be aware of how profoundly impactful your comments are, and they are touching other people as well. It's not just what we're saying, it's what you're saying as well. But more importantly than what we may say is, what do we do? How do we show up in our relationships, in our homes, in our friendships, and in the most important relationship, which is with ourselves? 2021, the year ending for me, was very different. The last couple of years, I was very focused on expressing gratitude for the year that just ended, and all the processing and reflecting on all the growth and learnings that I picked up along the way. And it hasn't happened this year, primarily because of circumstances. We've been with dignity and grace walking through COVID in a home. But I will say this, is that what I have learned on my own journey of healing over the past 5 years is that no matter how you showed up in the past, that you gave permission to define who you were, it was just a story. It was just your personality that became your reality. But that's not who you are. Who you are is so much more powerful than your personality. Your personality is your armor. It's what you wear on the outside so that you will be liked. If you're lucky, you may be loved, right? I say, no, that's not true. What is true is how you feel about yourself on the inside. And that's where the superpower comes. That's where the light shines. We all can get there. We just have to turn off the old story of self-sabotage that you may have inherited from your ancestors, and know that you can be the change in your family line. You can light up your family line. You just have to be willing, as Josh said, take responsibility, take accountability. And change your story. Biohack your brain. Create your affirmations, create your mantras. Show up and grow up. That's ultimately what we're talking about here. I've said it before. I'll say it one more time. Your life will get better. You will feel better. You will come home to yourself when you're ready to show up and grow up. And stop letting that younger inner child or ego manage the steering wheel positions on a 10 and 2 position on the steering wheel. It's time for you to take back control and say, yes, 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 it's possible today. And then take action. Make changes. Baby steps, big priority, as one of my mentors once said. With that, Mary Kelly, a beautiful angel, says, be the lighthouse for someone who needs it. Yes. That, my friends, is possible. And most importantly, for me to have those experiences, I had to lean into faith over fear. I had to be willing to surrender. All the old stories that were downloaded from the time I was a little boy, at home, on the playgrounds, in the fields, in relationships, to ultimately come home to who I am, and begin to like myself and eventually fall in love with me. And so if you are at home right now, if you are not sure where to begin, one of the first questions so many of my coaching clients ask me, where do I begin? I have one word, one syllable, one answer. Start. Start. And with that, I love you guys. Happy New Year. I love my viewers, our viewers. I love you guys. You guys are amazing. Thank you for pulling up the slack tonight as I have done my best to protect my energy so I can continue to heal from whatever is going on inside of this body temple of mine. I love you all. It's always hard to say goodbye till next time, but we'll see you guys next week on Real Men, Real Talk Live. Thanks, guys.